Hey and welcome to this live stream. My name is Kyuki, and I've with me my good friend Toby, and we
Hi
will
there.
hi, and we will discuss some cards from the new set Kamigawa and Neon Dynasty, and I hope you like those cards or maybe not, and I will just one moment grab my link and post this on the Discord because I was already asked about it. One moment. And post this on the content channel. And I would say we just start with the first card, and this would be Swift Reconfiguration, a card that we both, Toby and I, put on the list, and that's why he will start talking about why he thinks that's a good card.
Yeah, I think it's great actually because we get another flexible removal for early turns in white-based decks, and it has also a kind of flexibility for utility creatures that you want to keep and prevent from dying to basically everything that's called Doomblade or something like that. Because all static abilities and activated abilities are still on the card. So you deactivate being a creature to protect it from removal. Or if you are facing a beatdown deck, you can remove the pressure from the attacking creatures. So I like the utility. And for early turns against a beatdown deck, it says, please invest a few power to activate your creature, or it's basically dead. Or I protect my creature with utility. For example, I play Aminatu, so I have a lot of creatures when it comes to play abilities, but a few with static abilities that I'd like to keep, like Meddling Mage, or a few other that I try, but Meddling Mage is a very good example for it. You name the card, you have your 2/2, and you can protect it from removal, so you can basically stop the commander from your opponent to enter the battlefield if you named it by Meddling Mage, and you get a little of bonus so that you can stop the removal of your opponent. And you can reset it with Aminator too. You can blink the enchantment that made your creature a vehicle and put it on something else. So it's very flexible in my mind, and one white mana is really, really cheap for the effect. And if you have some static ability or activated abilities on your creatures that you want to protect from removal, it's basically the go-to standard for me.
Yeah, I would agree on this assessment, pretty much. I would like to add that we actually face quite a lot of commanders, or we have quite a lot of popular commanders at the moment that would be shut down by this. Notably, something like Dargo or Hogak. Those both would be shut down. Those decks would be shut down by this card because it's very hard for them to assemble 5 additional power to just gain their big dude back and attack with them. So that's quite disrupting for those decks.
Yeah.
And
And even if they can activate it, they have to put a net power of 5, so you prevent 5 damage basically by using it. So if they can activate the vehicle, they put 5 power from the creatures into it. That's 5 power that don't deal damage to you.
Absolutely. And I also like to add that the mode that you put it on a creature that you want to protect on your side, I think is not that uncommon. I think, because you tend to play a lot of creatures for their abilities, and if those are not entered the battlefield abilities, but static abilities, for example, I think that you would actually prefer to just keep your creature around with this and use this as a one mana. Haha, your removal does not the thing you wanted to do.
Oftentimes it's a drawback for a creature with a very good static ability to be a creature because they are targeted by removal.
Actually, I would play this in a heartbeat in a Leovold deck, for example.
Yeah, okay. If you get Leovold with it on it, you say thank you, good game. Yeah. Lucky for me, it's a white enchantment, not a green or blue or black.
Yeah. I think but I think it's quite good. And with the next card on our list, I think that should be the next card. Just let me check. One moment. Actually, why the hell is this not working? No, this card. People saw the next card already. I'm talking about Shorikai Genesis Engine, another card from the Kamigawa Neon Dynasty Commander set.
Yes,
this is we already talked about this card quite a lot, Toby and I think this card hides its power very well.
It does.
I think the color identity is somewhat misleading because it only offers you two colors in blue and white, and the ability looks a bit. The fact that it is a vehicle is somewhat deceiving, because you look at it from the standpoint of it being a creature, and most of the time it not being a creature, and this could be very deceiving because the way you have to look at it, I believe, is that this is a 4-mana artifact in your command zone that sometimes can be a creature, but most of the times has this first ability, the tap it for 1 mana, draw 2, discard 1, create a 1/1, and then the 1/1 has random text that is only relevant with the artifact. So I think when you look at it from this standpoint, you have a very strong commander that is immune to mass removal because similar to, say, like a planeswalker, but it is not a planeswalker and therefore not attackable by creatures and therefore more fragile, like an artifact, and it generates card advantage while being on the battlefield. It's hard to remove, and also creates board presence when you use them abilities. So I think this is a very strong control commander, and maybe the only downfall that I could see is the 4 mana. Those are very steep for Archon.
True. So 4 mana is basically a cutoff for most commanders, and especially if you are only 2 colors with it. But, now here's the but. It is like an enchantment artifact that can be functioned as a commander, and that's one of the advantages if you play a planeswalker commander is it's not a creature, and you get utility. Like Aminatur is a very good example for it. You get a planeswalker with 3 abilities, basically 2 abilities, one is the ultimate, and you can build your deck around it. So Genesis Engine does the same, but with a very clear focus on controlled strategies. The drawback of a control deck in Archon or dual commander or whatever singleton format with a commander structure you play is you can't outgrind your opponent because he always gets one permanent during the game. Even if he's flooded, he can cast it and recast it and recast it. So you are basically grinding through your deck. And if you don't have something that refills and refreshes your hands while also building a board state, you will lose the game. You can't build a pure control deck in Archon without having in mind that you have to grind and build your board presence at the same time. And Genesis Engine does both. You get card advantage because you draw through your decks, you get a net +1 on your cards in hand, and also a 1/1 in play. So a 1/1 is not very big, true, but you have multiple times of activations, and you only need 3 to get an 8/8 vehicle online. So it can finish if you have control over the game, and you won't lose the grip on the game because you can redraw and redraw. It forces you to build your deck like a classical control UW, but I would say that's not that big of a deal because there are enough cards in blue and white to utilize. And I'm trying to build a deck that works with it, and I can see a structure where it would work. It's not a clear and obvious choice to play Genesis Engine as a commander, but I want to try it. It gives so much value to exactly one archetype I really like to enjoy. That's classical control, and having a draw to get a 1/1, discard a card is for me it's a magical dream having that as a commander.
Yeah, it's somehow.
And my opponent will hate me for it.
I think this card fills a slot that was missing in 1v1 commander formats for a long time, because this allows you for this classic UV, classic blue-white control combo, counter and destroy all creature style deck, and does not punish you for in the form that you have to play a creature that all of a sudden after you played that creature makes your all your mass removal kind of bad. And this encourages you to play this classic control style because your commander is not affected by mass removal. So yeah. One thing Andre in the chat pointed out that the last card we talked about, the Swift reconfiguration, also combos with Devoted Druid. Just wanted to put this in there because when it loses, it loses to be a creature, so you can put as many -1/-1 counters on it as you like. It doesn't die, and therefore generates a lot of mana. So maybe this is something we will see in the future with this Swift reconfiguration. So yeah, that's exciting. Potential turn 3 endless mana combos. One more in the format. So I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, it gives another angle to green-white structures with having an infinite mana loop for basically green, but you can use tutors, you can use overpowering creatures very early on, and I don't see that's a bad thing in the format because interaction is very high on turn 1 to 3. In every deck, you have to play something in or any kind of interaction from turn 1 on. So I see it's in addition for green-white, and combo decks are fine, I think, or special combos in that decks. I don't see a deck that will tutor for Devoted Druid and then for the enchantment and then go infinite with it. I think it will happen, but I don't think you will force it.
Yeah, I think it's something that combo decks just can pack in addition, if you know what I mean. So have a backup combo in the deck.
Yeah,
Because,
I agree on that.
Because enchantments are very easy to tutor, and creatures are very easy to tutor. So this might be something that a combo deck like, let's say, Timna Thrasios would include, because they already run Devoted Druid. Some lists do that. And this is just one more card you add to the deck and have another out to combo off with Thrasios in your command zone. So,
Yeah, it's an addition, but it's not the basic for a combo deck.
Yeah, I agree.
Not the basis for. Okay, so what's next on the list?
The next one is Yoshimaru, the Ever Faithful. We have to talk about this card because it's a partner, and it's a cheap partner. It only costs 1 white, and it reads, whenever another legendary permanent enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Yoshimaru, and it's a 1/1 legendary dog. So the reason why we need to talk about this is because it has the partner ability. Without the partner ability, it would probably a nice addition to the format, and people would debate if this is better than, let's say, Isamaru or Kithion. But with the partner ability, it's a whole new story. Because you not only can play mono white, what I think something like Yoshimaru and Keyleth could be a nice mono white deck. But you can put in various combinations, because he's a cheap commander that does something in most decks, and most decks don't have to overly adjust to what they already do, just because they can, for example, play more legendary lands and trigger Yoshimaru this way, or include a legendary creature that they normally would not include, but with Yoshimaru it does make the cut. Something like Talia, or I don't know, Venza, Shaper Servant, for example, or any Planeswalker. So this could be interesting. And I'm most excited about the mono white alternative, because I think that could be a great way to enter the format and build a rather inexpensive deck, because you don't need that many expensive lands, especially dual lands, and play maybe a very a strong deck that can hold up on its own in the format.
Yeah, mono white, I see a niche for it. Yoshimaru plus Keyleth could be very hard beat down early on, and there are enough cheap and good options in mono white for enough pressure to overpower even some busted decks or combo decks. But, and there's a big but, they are still only creatures with power and toughness, and no real additional value. If they are handled, you have to rebuild with them. It can go very quick, but it don't have to be. So yeah, it's great for a very early beta. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's not near the realm of ban-worthy, even though I don't like partner ability at all. Yeah, good card all around, but not busted. I think you can create games that are very interesting with it, because you have to decide how much do you want to pressure with your deck, and how much utility or interaction can be built in. Even in mono white, it's quite hard to get enough interaction. You have to put cards like hate beers in mono white to have early interaction to stop the opponent from stopping you. It's not like they put enough creatures in the way. It's really more about, can you hold your creatures in play, and that's a balance you have to decide on deck building. So that's the point I like. If you go the full beatdown mode with Yoshimaru and the Horsey. So very interesting, and there are also other deck building options with it that are more or less still only power on the battlefield. So if there is any other ability on it, I would say maybe a little bit too much, but in this way, I really like the card.
I also would like to point out that Yoshimaru comes in as a 1/1, so something like Gutshot can handle him quite well, or Spike Field Hazard, or anything that shoots a point of damage. Something like or gets away, takes away 1 toughness. Something like Umejara's Jitu, for example, or something like Plague Engineer. So when you handle him once, you can keep him from growing quite well. And I think we will see what the future holds. If this, you also have to play some critical mass of legendary permanents, and this could be a challenge on its own, because you don't want to dilute your deck just to play legends in it. But I think it's quite interesting to build, and I'm looking forward what the community will come up with Yoshimaru, and in what decks we will see in play. One deck that already was mentioned to me was Yoshimaru and Ludovic, and I think that's quite interesting, because that's frankly the first time that this color combination, blue, red, and white, would be playable in Archon, because there was no good color combination, partner combination to support this color combination. And I think it's this is something that I'm looking forward to, that color combinations are now playable that lacked support, commander support in the past. So yeah, I'm looking forward for Yoshimaru to come into our format, and maybe even be there in the tier 2 and even tier 1 decks. Who doesn't like a good dog? Maybe we will take a look at the next card. This would be the March of Wretched Sorrow, a card that you put on the list. So why don't you tell us about the card?
Okay, it's 1 black and X, an instant, and you can pitch black cards into it to reduce its cost by 2 for each card. Exiled. They are exiled. They are not just pitched. They are, pitching is exciting. So, and it deals X damage to target creature or planeswalker, and you gain X life. Why is it on my list? I don't think you have it on your list.
I didn't have it on my list now.
In Archon, I find it very important to have removal that also reduces the tempo advantage from your opponent. And tempo is most of the times your life total in Archon, because it's all creatures and all threats have a very high pressure on your life. You have fetch lands that pressure your life. And there are more or less other pitch cards that reduce your life and so on. So starting on 20 is nice to have when there were 30 life or more in other formats. You don't care. You have enough time for your spells, for your development of your own game plan. But in a format where interaction in the early turns is very important, and if you can't keep up, you have to get life back. That is a very important thing if you play something more controlish, which I do. So March of Wretched Sorrow is a removal spell where I can pitch not needed cards like discard spells like Sword Disease or something like that I can't play during early turns when I face a mono-red deck. So I can pitch it and regain the tempo I lose, but also I can deal with a planeswalker or a creature. Yes, you have to pay 1 black and X, so the black doesn't go away in the cost, but still you can deal with a lot of cards for very cheap. You can get rid of useless cards and you get tempo back. So I'm also fond of the black intervention by Terrible's intervention, where you can also exile the grave or exile graveyard cards. But having the option to pitch and reduce the cost makes the card so much better that I really like it. And I really like the whole circle, especially black, white, and blue of it. So a card that also says you don't lose your tempo, I really like it.
I think your arguments make sense, but I'm a bit skeptical because you still have to pay a black mana or blue or white mana to get the effect, and the black one, because it's only to a creature or planeswalker, I'm a bit skeptical about it. Because, well, you can exile any number of black cards, sure, but it's a removal, and you don't want your removal to set you back than more than 1 card. I can see an argument that this could be okay if you don't have to pay any mana for it. But in this case, you have to at least pay 1 mana and maybe even more, because maybe you don't have that many black cards, or you don't want to 3-for-1 yourself when killing a creature that has more than 2 toughness, or a planeswalker with more than 2 loyalty. So, but I get that that the life gain could be important. Maybe we talk about the others as well, because I think that's a common theme between all of them. When we look at the March, I think I messed up the order, so you have to bear with me. I messed up the order, so we have to keep the order. Okay.
One thing I would like to add on it, the kind of effect to pay black and X to deal X damage and gain X life traditionally falls short about 2 mana, because that's the extra toughness that creature got these days. So you can't kill something for 2 mana, you can't kill something for 3 mana. But if you have the option to pitch a card in it, you can really deal with the problematic cards and regain tempo. Yes, it's costly if you do it. But still, I see the tempo you gain back can be very, very big, especially if you're later in the game, not very early in the game, but later in the game, where you have to deal with a commander that's recasted, and you got behind on life. And that's the only... still, it's for a more controlled style of game, not for a very mid-rangey or beatdown game. There is no use for it in the shell, I think, but in the control shell, yeah, I think it will shine.
Okay. Yeah, we will see how this goes in the future. I would suggest that we move on to the next card. We will talk about the others in later. I messed up the order of the cards, so the cards that the viewers can see. So we will talk about Tamiyo's Safekeeping now. It's an this was on my list. It's an instant and it's 1 green, and it says target permanent you control gains hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. You gain 2 life. So why did I put this on the list? This is a well, frankly, not that uncommon effect. We have similar cards already in Magic, but I find this somewhat interesting because it says hexproof and indestructible. So this gets around many things, and it also gains you 2 life. So this could be interesting in decks that want to protect their one big threat. Something like Hogak could be interested in this kind of card, or in Raffellos we might see this kind of card because it protects your commander or the big threat you just played for 1 mana. And I'm even thinking about putting this in something like Leovold, because it also gains your life, and this could be interesting in race situations, and you also can because it gives hexproof and indestructible, it can be interesting in combat. You can do blocks that normally would trade your creature with the opponent's creature, and then have a combat trick and say, haha, my creature doesn't die because it's indestructible, and also I gain 2 life, which could be important life gain in the race. So yeah, what do you think about this? Also, it targets a permanent, not only creatures, so this can protect something like lands.
Yeah, that's a real big upside. I think it targets permanents. The indestructible is a very big part of it, and to be honest, life gain is for noobs, not anymore. It's for Karlov decks and for everything in Archon. If you get accidental life gain on a card, that is already useful. That's so good in all decks that are under pressure with their life totals. I wouldn't come up with a card because it's green, so it's not for me. But I really hate Snakeskin's Whale and all kind of that. And adding to target permanence and stopping even mass removal, if it's not something like -X is really good. If you say, okay, it's also usable in creature combat, you only get upsides. It is a kind of interaction that you really want to have, especially if your commander is a utility creature like Leovold is. It's not really a beatdown, but if your game plan is evolving around one big threat like Hogak, it's also good. So very versatile, very useful, and to be honest, like 5 cents or something like that for a common plus shipping cost. Yeah, you can't do anything wrong on it.
It will be slightly more because you have to get this in foil, of course. But yeah, I think that's a very good investment, and the card is quite unique. I mean, there are similar cards, but the card kind of does it all, and I think this could be a very good inclusion into Archon decks, especially if you want to protect your commander and or
I
any
don't
other
see how
creature.
they will upgrade something like that in the future. They could put Scry 1 on it or Phyrexian Mana.
Yeah,
Get
don't
busted.
don't let us. Yeah, Phyrexian mana on this would be kind of insane.
It's quite high on the edge of what could you improve on it. There's nothing more that can be improved on that type of a card without obviously being overpowering. So it's right on the edge of I can't get any better
Yeah.
with that kind of a card. So I agree that you picked it. I wouldn't have picked it, but yeah, I think it's really high on the power level of that kind of cards.
Yeah. Okay. I think we agree on this. So let's move on the next card. You put this on the list. It's the Containment Construct. We already saw this card being discussed in context of other formats because it's obviously a combo enabling card. So what are your thoughts on this?
I don't see a very great use for it in my kind of decks. I could see a use in it if I play Genesis Engine because I can I get the whole value package, but it's 2 mana for a 2/1 artifact construct creature, and it says whenever you discard a card, you may exile that card from your graveyard, so it hits the graveyard. If you do, you may play that card this turn. What it basically says, everything you have has madness. For this turn, you can play like you have a madness deck.
Mm-hmm.
It gives you so much value on accidental things like draw 2, discard 2. I don't think Faceless Looting will get any better. Yeah, it does. You get a creature that says you have access to 4 cards this turn. You need the mana right now to replay that thing yet you discarded. Right, okay, true. It says you may play this card, so you can also play lands from it. So if you have something where you discard, says discard something X, or you use channels like, let's say, is a legendary land cycle with channel abilities, where you discard the card, you can replay the card you discarded to use the channel ability and get it all. It has so much use in very, very, very specific decks like Asmodan. I think if you have a cookbook and everything in your deck get madness, it's really powerful. The effect is really, really good. It's an uncommon, so yeah, if you can get that card in an instant, and it has so much value on it if your deck has discard in it. It's a little bit protection against discard from your opponents, not that much because most of the times you won't have the mana open, or it's from the timing restrictions on sorceries, creatures, and so on, won't let you reuse the card, but it gives you an additional value. I would play it in Genesis Engine deck because I like to draw 2, discard 1, and use the one I discarded. If you play a creature-based Genesis Engine deck, it's basically with Faceless Looting and so on, with all the red discard draw X. It's so good. Windfall effects will will be very good. So I like the power level of that card. It's fragile enough to get rid of it, but it gives you an angle to a lot of decks where discard is a theme and can additionally power Asmodan.
Yeah. I agree on the most parts, but I have to correct you. It doesn't give madness because you still have to play the cards. So no shenanigans on the opponent's turn, like with madness cards. You can't cast.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. On your turn, everything basically has something. But it's not like you have the instant speed. Yeah, true. But
it's still good enough. Yeah.
And it hits the grave. So everything that says if something hits the grave,
Still triggers.
by discarding it will trigger.
Yeah.
Can come up.
I like the card very much, and I already put this in the deck in my mind in Asmodan. But yeah, I think it's also great because it's 2 mana 2/1, so it still has still value on the board. It does not. It's not dead. It's also an artifact that's kind of important in most types in some of those decks, because some of them use also the artifact type for their advantage, like in Asmodan. And there are other commanders that might be interested in something like this, like Jace Vern's Prodigy. Well, we don't see that commander very much, but this could be an example, or in something like Galia, the Endless Dance, where you discard a card and then draw 2 cards, or draw 2 cards and then discard 1 at random. I'm not sure right now, but anyway, this could be a nice card for even more value. So yeah, I'm excited for this card.
Makes
and
Liliana's fail great again.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a very good pick. I didn't have this quite on the gravy train spectrum. I was more, okay, that's something like a nice combo card. But yeah, this is definitely worth a shot for making more value out of your cards that you have to discard.
Yeah, and it's obviously in the set for the channel ability cards.
Yeah.
So, but the power level was accidental. I think they thought about a neat way to give unlimited, or basically unlimited, an extra value on channel cards.
Yeah.
But in my mind, they accidentally did that as a really constructed.
I mean,
card.
all cards with cycling are so much better with this card, especially the land cards. I find this.
Yep.
That's quite unique. Yeah. Okay, we move on. The next one is Tezzeret, Betrayer of Flesh. This is a planeswalker.
Oh, I missed him on my list. So, oh yeah, true.
You missed it on your list?
Yep.
Yeah, I put it on my list because I put basically every planeswalker this time on the list. The first activated ability of an artifact you activate each turn costs 2 less to activate, and for putting a loyalty counter on him, you draw 2 cards and then discard 2 cards unless you discard an artifact card. For -2, you animate an artifact or target artifact becomes an artifact creature, and if it's a vehicle, it has base power. If it isn't a vehicle, it has base power and toughness 4/4. So this can animate your vehicle, and they keep their base power and toughness. And -6, you get an emblem whenever an artifact you control becomes tapped, you draw a card. That's quite powerful. So, did you already run our neat little thingy to evaluate planeswalkers on this?
No, I didn't, because first of all, I didn't have it on my list, and second, I don't know how to price in the activated ability reducing ability of him. The static ability is quite good. Be aware, if you used a mana stone to cast him or something like that, it won't reduce the cost in the future turn because you already used an activated ability of an artifact. Just to have that in mind. It came up on Entity Arena already a few times, and people are very confused about it. You have to be very carefully selecting which is the first activated ability of an artifact you want to activate. But then it's very good. you can do busted things with it. You can create enough pressure on the board, and you can get a little thirst for knowledge. So I think it's very good.
Yeah, and well, I would price in this first line for 2 mana actually, because if you want to use it right away, or if you build your deck around it to use it, then it's great. For example, in Breya, this reduces the cost that Breya uses when she activates her ability. So this is neat and nice. And well, every turn you get one free Breya activation for free, and it's also active in the opponent's turn, so you can activate her on your turn and then on the opponent's turn for free. Well, you still have to sacrifice artifacts, but you get where I want to go with this. Then the +1, I would factor in as something like 2 mana, maybe 3 mana. So in the correct deck, you already have your mana paid if you activate him once. So this is great. I love that he can protect himself with the animate artifact. That is also quite impressive because they are 4/4. So the worst case, this is 4 mana, gain 2 life, make a 4/4 out of one of your artifacts. So this is quite good. And he can also very quickly go to the ultimate. That's also very powerful because you don't have to tap the artifacts to draw the card. It's just enough that when they become tapped, and in the right deck you also play artifact creatures, so this can be quite good. He could be a very powerful addition to artifact decks like Breya, like Sai, those are the 2 main ones, I think. Maybe this could be great in Teferi, I don't know. You could maybe make an argument that you could use him in something like Aminatu, if the deck is more focused on artifacts. I would say this goes in every deck that also plays Urza, because it has a very different role than Urza, but it's in the same ways, or the parameter, the way it can be strong, or the reason why it could be strong in a game are the very same reasons like Urza provides. Yeah, so that's my take on Tezzeret. What do you think?
So I compared it initially to Tezzeret Agent of Bolas, and Tezzeret Agent of Bolas is on the ability side so much better than the Betrayer of Flesh, if you don't count in the static ability. So the old Bolas, the old Tezzeret Agent of Bolas has +1. You look at the top 5 cards of your library and get an artifact from it. It's not like draw 2, discard 2 if you discard an artifact, but basically you're an artifact deck, so top 5 should give you value. -1, you make an artifact into a 5/5 creature. It's I think a better value to play Agent of Bolas, but he's blue-black. So having a Tezzeret with comparable abilities to the Agent of Bolas, which is very great, helps a lot in mono blue decks, or decks that don't have the black in addition in their color identity from the commander. So and if you can utilize the static ability, you get also mana cheating on a lot of cards where you shouldn't be able to mana cheat. And I think this combination makes a good planeswalker, but I'm not that overall impressed by it. Maybe I don't see I see its value in mono blue decks so far, but I don't have enough experience playing against Sai and something like that. So maybe it's my unexperience in fighting those decks or in playing those decks. Yeah.
What do you think of it in Breya? Because the ability of Breya becomes you can activate her once a turn without paying mana for it.
Yeah, but you have to sacrifice the creature, the artifacts anyway.
Yeah, so, sure. But the 2 mana are sometimes problematic for the deck.
So you're telling me we have Breya in play and also some Planeswalker powering it up. So
yeah,
I don't see it. It's just win more. It's not like he gives you the additional value you needed, because if your commander stays in play, you have to win the game. Basic. That's the game in Archon. If the game state is against you, you have to deal with the game state. But if your commander stays in play, you should win the game. That's all about what we are doing here. So if Breya is on the battlefield, the question is does Tezzeret help? But the question is, does Tezzeret help you to get Breya into play and have and let her stay in play?
Well, that's
on that side.
Yeah.
On that side, I don't think he helps. Comparable to Zai, where you need additional artifacts, where you need additional things to do that could help the game plan. I don't see exactly where he fits in, which void he fills now. So maybe time will tell, but I think it's a good planeswalker. I think he has a better version in the blue-black version of him, because the abilities are very comparable. And if you have black in your deck, use Agent of Bolas, so much better. If you're an artifact deck with blue-black, but if you don't have access to black because your deck doesn't fit in, maybe you're red-blue or mono-blue. So go with the Tezzeret if you can utilize the static ability. The static ability, I think, is the great upside on him.
Okay, then we move on to the next card. It's a blue-black commander, blue-black planeswalker. It's Kaito Shizuku, and he reads: at the beginning of your end step, if Kaito Shizuku entered the battlefield this turn, he phases out. For +1, you draw a card, then discard a card unless you attack with the attack this turn. For -2, you create a 1/1 blue ninja creature that is unblockable. And for -7, you get an emblem with whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, search your library for a blue or black creature card and put it on the battlefield and shuffle. He comes into play with 3 loyalty counters and costs only 3 mana. So that's 3 mana it's always good. And for me, the reason I wanted to talk about this card is the first ability, because without the first ability, I don't think this would be that big of a deal. But with the first ability, it's always a given that you untap with this planeswalker in play, because your opponent can't kill it, except he kills it at instant speed, but there are not so many removal that can do that. So what do you think about this? Excuse me? Okay, maybe. So I will talk about this. What I find very intriguing is that he puts a ninja into play. This could be interesting for decks that play ninjutsu creatures. There are not so many of them in Archon, one has to admit, but this can also put into play an unblockable creature for something like equipments. But the more interesting ability is the draw a card ability on this. I think this could be interesting for mid-range decks because you kind of get a Jace Beleren, but you don't have to give cards to your opponent. So this is something like a Phyrexian Arena, for example, but with a bit more versatility that you can create a 1/1. Well, you still have to attack on your turn. But I'm not quite sure if I would play this because it depends very much how much this first line impacts this Planeswalker. Well, he gives you somewhat the option to always activate him twice. I think that's very important. But on the other hand, the ultimate is kind of out of reach, so he only has really 2 abilities, and the 1/1 unblockable I don't find that much important. And the +1 only draws you straight up a card if you're in attacking mode. Sure, the 1/1 can make sure that you're always in attacking mode, but otherwise I don't find him that powerful. What do you think?
So, I really like it, especially in Aminato, where you can reuse him, so he always phases out. Yeah, you make your token, he phases out. In your turn, you draw a card after your token attacked. You use Aminato. So what I talked about, if your commander stays in play, you have to win. Aminato can't win the game on its own, so you need a board presence with it. And he does a very good board presence. The unblockable creature can do a lot of heavy lifting by accidentally doing damage, sometimes blocking. That's not optimal, but sometimes that happens too. Or dealing with Planeswalker, which get low on loyalty. But basically, he enables you to always draw a card with Kaito. So that's something I really like. He goes low, very, very low on loyalty if you need to make a 1/1. But don't forget, he comes into play on turn 3. So on turn 2, more or less, really, maybe you play a creature on turn 1 or on turn 2. So you get to draw the card, not only draw and discard. And even draw and discard looting is a powerful ability if you can utilize your graveyard. So I really like his +1 ability. The additional protection he offers when he comes into play, which is something where the main drawback of Planeswalker is currently, because they can be beaten down by creatures, and you don't have your mana up when you cast him in the turn, and even in later turns, not only on turn 3, but in later turns, he is a good value card. It's just a good value card that can overpower the opponent by card advantage and giving you the option to create a creature. Even if it's only a 1/1 unblockable, is a really good thing on a Planeswalker, because he can protect himself. He has 2 protection modes, don't forget that. He protects by phasing out when he comes into play, and he protects himself by having a blocker. Yes, it's not the optimal way to throw away a blocker which is unblockable by itself and only 1/1, but you can do it. and in Aminato, it's something that is kind of problematic to protect your not Aminato cards. So he does it for my deck, I think, quite well. And a lot of players in standard or otherwise seem to like him. So I saw a few decks trying to utilize in ninjutsu decks. But I think he has a place as a 3-mana planeswalker among the good 3-mana planeswalker in the formats. Not an Oko. Yeah, it's not an Oko, but he's not far away from being really powerful. Even then, when we get something like equipment on him, the sort of feast and famine, and so on the unblockable token, where you normally have problems to get enough equipment, enough creatures for your equipment in Aminato.
Okay. Well, I'm looking a bit on the time. We are already 1 hour online, so we will move a bit quicker on the next cards, so that we can cover all of them. That's why we move on to the next card already, and it's Tamiyu Completed. It's a 5-mana planeswalker that you also can cast for 4 mana and 2 life. Comes into play with 5 loyalty, and if you cast it for life, it comes in with 3 loyalty. And the +1 is tap up to 1 target artifact or creature, and it doesn't untap on the next untap step. The -X, you exile target non-land permanent card with mana value X from your graveyard and create a token that's a copy of that. And for -7, you create Tamiyu's Notebook, a legendary colorless artifact token with spells you cast cost 2 less to cast, and you can tap it for drawing a card. So I don't think this will be a good planeswalker. Reasons are that well, not the reasons why silver planeswalkers like Ayani, Vengeance, for example, are good because their ultimate will win the game. So if you drop this on 5 and protect it for 3 turns, which she can do because of her +1, takes out an artifact or a creature, the payoff is not that great. Sure, you get permanent cost reduction on your spells, but in Archon, your spells already are very cheap, so that's not that huge of a deal. Sure, that's good, but it's not game winning, I think. And drawing a card extra a turn, well, sure, your spell costs 2 less to cast, but I don't know. That's not very powerful ultimate. So the other ability has to substitute for that, and this can be nice if you play permanents that are cheap but very effectful, because it can be any non-land permanent. On the other hand, the -X is only then very appealing when she has lots of loyalty, which means that you have to cast it for 5 mana. And I find it more appealing if when you cast it from 4 mana. Otherwise, I don't think I would include that in my deck. So in my mind, this is a 4 mana planeswalker with free loyalty that you also have to pay 2 life for. So I don't know. I'm unsure on this, and I probably will not include her in my decks.
I have a strong opinion on her. I think she's not good at all.
Oh, okay. So for the reasons that I brought up, but you don't see upside.
Yeah, I don't see anything she does for 4 or 5 mana, on 5 mana she has no impact. That's for 5 mana worth. There are enough cards that does the trick on her. And for 4 mana, she has 2 loyalty, and even her ultimate can be handled. Normally, you get an indestructible token or something like that. Here, you get an artifact token, which does something, and it dies shatter. Doomblade is no good argument, but you work your whole way up to 7 loyalty, activate her, and then that token can be removed. No, thank you.
Or repealed. I didn't think about that. It's not. Wow. Oh yeah, it's not an emblem, right? You can interact with it. I didn't think about it, so that's even worse. What I thought about. Yeah. Okay. So don't buy her. It's a trap. We move on to the next one. The Wandering Emperor in the Waifu edition on your screen right now. So you were excited about this card. So why don't you tell us about her?
Yeah. So having a permanent that with flash that can do double duty on a turn it enters the battlefield. So basically you play it where at the moment.
So I will take over then. He probably has to look after his daughter. So this is a 4 mana planeswalker with flash. That's new, and you can activate her abilities on the turn that you flash her in. And for +1, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, and it gains first strike until end of turn. For -1, you get a 2/2 white samurai creature with vigilance, and for -2, you exile target tapped creature. You gain 2 life. And she comes into play with 3 loyalty. So, yeah, I find her quite versatile and pretty good, especially because she has flash. So you can use her as a removal, or even you don't need even you can basically play her after attackers are declared. So you can make sure that you get 2 activations out of her. And she can protect herself with the samurai or the exile target tapped creature. With the +1/+1 counter, she even has a permanent impact on the board with her plus ability. So I find her quite good. And I would include her in pretty much every white deck, I think.
I agree. I agree on that because we said that earlier, life gain, accidental life gain on removal is good. She has that extra life gain on her exile effect, so it gets around indestructible, not on hexproof, but indestructible. Creating a board presence. If she's not handled, you get 6 power worth of samurais. You can add loyalty on her, which is kind of unusual on that kind of planeswalker so far, where you get +1/+1 and first strike. So your samurai or your other creature has the advantage of getting through and don't dying, which is basically protecting the emperor. Remember, the samurais have vigilance, so not only she creates a defense mechanism for her, so samurais, for example, but also the samurais can re-attack and still have the protection up for the emperor. So there's a lot of hidden protection on her, and has flash and can be activated in the turn of your opponent when she comes into play. And for me in Aminatou, it's great having something you can flash in, activate, and then cast Aminatou to do additional value. On that axis, she's very, very, very good. And I would include her in every white deck per se, but she has a very good payout on her abilities for 4 mana.
Yeah, definitely agree. So we move on because of time. This one I put on the list. It's Kyodai, Soul of Kamigawa. It's a 4-mana, 3/3 flash flying dragon, legendary creature dragon spirit. And when it comes into play, another target permanent gains indestructible for as long as Kyodai stays into play, and it has rainbow mana, activated ability. Kyodai gets +5/+5 until end of turn. So why did I put this on the list? Because I think this could be a great 5-color commander in our format. It costs less than 5 mana. That's always a good sign for a good 5-mana commander, 5-color commander. And because it has flash, it's also it's not that big of a deal that it costs 4 mana because it has flash. So you can build something like a 5-color control deck out of it that also features some creatures or other permanents, because this says target permanent gains indestructible, not target creature. So that's nice. And you can basically protect whatever you want with your commander. I find him quite interesting. I don't know exactly where I would go with this, but I wanted to throw him out there and put him on the radar for our players, because I think this is a great 5-color commander.
I think if you want to play 5-color, it's okay. Or if you don't play Sliver Overlords or something like that. He is cheaper than the typical 5 mana, so I would try it if I want to play 5-color. Overall, I'm not that impressed, but your reasons for putting it up on the list, it's quite an interesting option to have in a format where the color identity is very important for your deck.
Well, the alternative at the moment are pretty much that you play Niv Mizzet, and that's quite another deck, and it also puts a restriction on your deck. So I find it interesting to have a flash commander and the ability to build your deck very freely and have always the option to protect important pieces of your board. So that's why I wanted to put him up there. But we move on. We go from a dragon to a lion to a cat, the Lion Sash. Walk us through it. Why did you put it on the list?
Yeah, so Lion Sash says 1 and a white artifact creature equipment cat. Yes, it's an equipment and a cat. 1/1 for 1 white exile target card from a graveyard. If it was a permanent card, put a +1/+1 count on Lion Sash, and it has reconfigure, so you can equip it or attach it to another creature, and the equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each +1/+1 counter on Lion Sash. Remember, the activated ability stays on, so you can remove cards from graveyards and grow the Lion Sash or the equipped creature. It's so good. So, if you played against the Ooze that can exile cards from graveyards, you know how important it is sometimes to really destroy the grave step by step from your opponent. White doesn't have that much options that are targeted. So selection from cards from your opponent's graveyard with additional value on it. Yes, Rest in Peace gets everything, but it's not a creature. It also affects your grave. And Lion Sash fits so good in that part that is missing in white, to my mind, because it gets big in a quite fast way, because you can exile fetch land cards, you can exile, and fetch lands are the most common thing in graveyards in the format. It grows, it graveyard hate, and if it's not good enough, equip it to another creature and the other creature will get good enough, or you can protect it from being destroyed by just creature removal when you are already equipping it to another creature. I think it fits. It fits in almost every white deck because it gets out of hand very quickly, and the graveyard hate attached on it is something that white decks needed. So I'm very, very, very fond of it.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I'm a bit unsure because it's only a 1/1, but because white lacks the ability to interact with the graveyard besides the options that nuke the all of the graveyards at the same time. I think this is quite valuable options. It's also equipment, so this can be searched with something like Stoneforge Mystic, or
Yep.
because it's an artifact, you can search it with Enlightened Tutor, for example. So yeah, this is definitely an option for white decks that want to interact with the graveyard.
And because it can be equipped to another creature, so you get a lot of utility printed on one card. You get a creature which is most of the time a 2/2 because one permanent card is always somewhere in any grave. You can equip it to grow other creatures, and it's searchable because it's an artifact, and so on. So there's so many things that are going on with this card alone. So I really like it. I like having options, and I think it fits in white decks where you need something like graveyard hate effects. Very, very good.
Yeah. So we move on to the March of Otherworldly Light. Another March, another one of the cycles. So you put this on there. Talk me through it.
Yeah. Okay. So we can pitch white cards in it to reduce the X cost by 2. 1 white and X, and it says exile target artifact, creature, or enchantment with mana value X or less. So yes, you have to pay a white. Still true story. But for a white, you can remove any token. That's an artifact, creature, or enchantment, like Tamio's Notebook, for example. And you can grow it very easily. And if you pitch something in it, you can get rid of mana cost 2, or if you add any additional mana value, you can exile even further creatures, artifacts, and enchantments. I like it because it's an instant, and I like it because you have the option you have the option to exile a permanent for very cheap costs. I don't know if pitching is that good on that card because you don't get additional value like life gain or something like that. But I want to try it. The other thing, the prismatic
Prismatic ending.
Prismatic ending is sorcery speed, which I really don't like, and you can only get up to 3, but for 1 white you can exile a 1 converted mana cost permanent, which is not a land, so there are some in-betweens, but I really like the effect on an instant, and I want to try it out.
Sorry to interrupt you there, but you can exile artifact lands with this for 1.
True. You can exile artifact lands like Urza Saga.
Those are enchantment lands, yeah. So yeah, this could be quite interesting in Archon because you only need to pitch 1 white card to kill basically any aggressive commander, because they are usually costed 2 or less. And casting this for X equals 0 could also be interesting for tokens, as you said. Yeah.
There are quite a lot of things with mana value X in the realm of artifacts and creatures. And enchantments obviously too, because Urza Saga is an enchantment. It comes up a lot for 1 white, which is why prismatic ending is good, because 1 or less is not that rare as a mana value on the battlefield.
I see. Yeah,
and having it as an instant is the upside compared to the prismatic ending.
Definitely. That if this would be a sorcery, I don't think we would talk about this card. But instant makes it way better, and it also allows you to actually pay more mana into X because you don't have to tap out on your turn. So yeah, I can see this card. So we move on to the reality chip, a card that we both put on there. Let me just talk people through it. This is a legendary artifact creature, equipment jellyfish. Rolls right off the tongue. Costs 2 mana, 1 blue, 1 generic, and it's a 0/4 that lets you look that says you may look at the top card of your library at any time, and then you can reconfigure it for 3 mana, 1 blue, 2 generic, and as long as the rarity is attached to a creature, you may play lands and cast spells from top of your library. So you basically get Future Sight, and the mana cost for playing it and reconfiguring it also lines the mana value, at least lines up very well with Future Sight. But I think this is way better than Future Sight.
Yeah, it is. It is so much better. Funny thing that you said, it's basically the cost of Future Sight, which it is. You just need another creature for having its effect fully unlocked. Having a 0/4 blocker for 2 mana is okay. Looking at the top card of your library is okay. In a format where you can shuffle a lot, it's very helpful, because should I fetch or should I not? Because the top of my deck, you can see 1 additional card. When you get to play Future Sight, no questions asked. It's a lot of card value you get from Future Sight. And to create something like Future Sight effects in a 2-turn step or in multiple steps, that is versatility here. You can fetch that thing by using Stoneforge Mystic, because it's an equipment jellyfish. You can search it by things that can find creatures, especially with mana value 2 or less.
You can even find it with the Mage Cycle. What's the 2 mana value?
With
I think it's a treasure.
It's treasure. I don't know which one, but there's one which which searches for 2 mana value artifacts. But still, it's basically a wall with a reasonable size. So 3 power attackers are common, and a 4 toughness blocker with an upside ability and a very good late game value is quite rare. And I think it's a very playable card in multiple formats. Maybe it's too slow. I don't know, but maybe it's too slow because your opponent only has to kill the creature you want to reconfigure, and the reconfigure costs us 3. That's okay. If you have Tavish the Reds, it's 1 blue, but it could be too slow, and that's the only problem I see there, because having a wall in Aminato, for example, I come up with it a lot, and attaching it to a creature, that's doable, very doable in a lot of decks. And if you're in a market for more grindy deck style, Future Sight is something you want to play. Yeah. So
What I would add to this is you may look at the top card of your library at any time. This is quite important because you get this ability before you reconfigure, and you can decide when do you want to reconfigure. So you get to see beforehand what's on top of your deck, and if it is worth to reconfigure the reality chip. So you don't you don't have to spend mana into the unknown if this is worth it or not. So
there's nothing more frustrating than playing Future Sight and then having a land on top and you already did your land drop.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And also reconfiguring this for 3 mana, that's not that much in the late game. So yeah, I liked it. I like the card very much, and I will definitely try this
there
out.
Are cards that, and there are cards that cheat on equipment cost.
Yeah, I don't think that's that important because I think this could be a great addition in artifact decks because it's an artifact, but I don't think that we don't really have equipment matters themed commander in Archon, so
not enough playable at least.
By the way, the mage we looked for was Tribute Mage.
Thank you. And I'd like to add, I really hate every effect that says something like you can't draw cards. So Leovold is my nemesis, and just get around him.
Yeah, that's true. Because Future Sight doesn't draw cards. Yeah. So we go on. That's a card that I put on there. It's the Blade of the Oni. It's a 2 mana 3/1 with Menace. It's also equipment. It's an equipment demon. And when you reconfigure it for 4 mana, you put the creature you put it on is a 5/5 demon with Menace. And it's back. Yeah. So I put this on there because I really like the raw power of it. It's already the 2 mana 3/1 Menace is something that somewhat appeals to me. I really like that it is an artifact, so this could go into Asmodan very, very easily. And other aggressive or more aggressive based black decks could include this because Menace is a very powerful evasion, and making any creature to a 5/5 demon with Menace is also very powerful, I think. So yeah, that's why I put it on there. Maybe it's not good enough, but I see this on something like in Azure, for example. So we get a 5/5 Azure with flying and Menace and pseudo hexproof. So yeah, I think this is a great card and could be very nice with something like Stoneforge Mystic or in many decks I could see this card fill a great slot for an aggressive equipment that you want to play.
Yeah, I agree. The ability to turn any 2 underpowered creature into 5/5 demon is really good, and it's a creature that fits in a normal aggressive curve very good. So yeah, it's a good card.
Okay. So the next one is also an equipment, the Eater of Virtue. And I don't really want to talk about this card very much. It's just a better Bone Splitter. But it is straight up better. So if you are in the business of playing Bone Splitter in your deck, you pick this up and have a better card in your deck. So what makes this better than Bone Splitter? whenever the equipped creature dies, you exile it, and for whatever keyword that creature has on its roots text, you put that on the next creature that equips Eater of Virtue as well. So, yeah. That's it. What do you think about this card?
I remember times when you played Rancor on creatures, and that's also straight better than Rancor. So yeah,
It's
a
not
bone
straight
splinter
better. You have to invest more mana.
Yeah, but you have it still on the battlefield, and you still can use the upside of adding not only trample but additional things too, and it's colorless, so much better.
Yeah. So if you're in the business of smashing heads with Bone Splitter, use the Eater of Virtue. So our next card is our next card is Poseu, Who Endures, and I spoiler this. We put all 5 channel lands on there, and I think the reason for this is the same for everyone. It's just insane that you get spells on your lands. So we saw this already on the on the modular phased cards, but yeah, those take it to another level. What do you think?
They overdid it with the upsides of a card, and I think it's the most important thing about the lands is they have no drawback at all. So without having any drawback at all, it's yeah, having a land coming untapped, doing color of mana is so good when you have an additional ability on it. So it's not a basic land, and they are legendary kind of drawback, which doesn't apply to Archon, but any effect on the channel lands is very good. They affect the board. Every of them affect the board in some kind of way, either by getting a creature back from the grave. It's the least exciting one, but killing a creature with Aiganyo, destroying artifacts and lands with Buseiju, dealing 4 damage at that, creating 1/1s, and so on, and bouncing things, and the channel ability gets cheaper, which is insane because it's so much value tucked on one card, and they made it a cycle. So yeah, there are difference in power level. Poseiju is obviously, in my mind, the most powerful of them, but every channel land is playable, and every of the channel lands could be played, in my mind, in a deck in a format like Archon. So they are default lands to play, in my mind, if you play a certain color, you should play the channel land you get from the color. So that's my mind on it right now. Could change that some of the effects are not worth the drawback of having a non-basic land that only makes one color, but the upsides on it are so good, so great.
Yeah.
I would play any of it in every deck I have.
Yeah, I totally agree, and those are very, very good lands. So, yeah, I think there's not really anything to add to those. There are already many videos and articles about them. So, yeah, I agree. They vary in strength, but they are very, very. You need a good reason to not run this into in your deck. So. Yeah, I think we will see them played in Archon quite a lot. And on that note, I want to thank you for your time, because we reached the end of our list. And yeah, do we have any closing thoughts on Kamigawa? Neon Dynasty, sorry.
Yeah, it's rare that set with the theme excites me that much, because I really, really, really like the interactions of the set as a limited format, and having really cool and interactable cards for other formats like Archon. I like the set, and I'm looking forward to play with the cards a lot in the future.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely something I would also say. I like the set, and the cards look interesting. Could bring some fresh wind into Archon. So yeah, I'm looking also forward for it in the future. And yeah, those are my closing thoughts on this. So thank you all for tuning in or watching this later on YouTube. And I hope you had as much fun as we did talking about these cards. So we will see you soon with new videos. I will be picking up, putting out videos soon-ish. I'm working on my master thesis at the moment, so that's why there are fewer videos in the last few weeks. So yeah, there should be new videos coming in about 2 weeks. In the meantime, I hope you liked this video.
I make the disclaimer here. If you don't want to miss any of the new Q-Key videos, subscribe and hit the bell button.
Yeah. Do this if you like to. Don't feel socially pressed into this. So yeah.
I
So
play
far.
mind control. You press the button.
All right. So thank you for being here, and good night or good day, or whenever you hear this, and see you soon. Goodbye.
Bye.